Emily Carter was 32 years old, but some days she felt much older. Life had not turned out the way she once imagined. She had dreamed of a peaceful home, warm evenings, and gentle conversations. Instead, her days felt heavy, and every morning she woke up hoping something might change. It took years for her to accept that waiting for life to change would not save her. She had to be the one to walk away from the life that had slowly worn her down. Her husband, Dave, was someone she had once trusted. In the early years, he had been charming, full of jokes, and always eager to make her smile. But over time, his personality shifted in ways she did not understand. He became sharp-tongued, demanding, and easily upset over small things. Emily tried to calm situations, tried to be patient, tried to keep harmony in the house. But each day left her feeling smaller inside, as if she was slowly disappearing from her own life. Friends stopped visiting. Not because they didn't care, but because Dave liked having everything quiet and controlled. Emily's world narrowed to the walls of her home. Her phone calls grew shorter. Her laughter became rare. She tried to hide her sadness with soft smiles, but close friends could still see the worry behind her eyes. One friend, Sarah, once told her gently, "You don't seem like yourself anymore." Emily changed the subject quickly. She was not ready to face the truth yet. Then came the night that changed everything, not because something dramatic happened, but because something inside Emily finally clicked. She sat alone in the kitchen after another long, tense evening. The clock ticked on the wall, sounding louder than usual. The stillness around her felt like a sign. Her heart whispered something she had ignored for too long. You cannot keep living like this. She did not pack a suitcase. She did not plan a long list of excuses. She simply grabbed her keys when she was sure Dave was busy and walked out quietly. She didn't know exactly where she was going. She only knew she had to keep driving until her heart began to settle. She drove through the night, past city lights, past quiet highways, past small towns she had never heard of. The farther she went, the more her breath returned to normal. By sunrise, she found herself in a peaceful, open place, a small ranching town in Wyoming named Willow Creek. It was the kind of town where the air smelled like pine trees and morning bread, where strangers greeted each other as if they had known one another for years. Something about the quiet roads and wide fields made her feel, for the first time in a long while, that she might be safe. She found a small diner on the edge of town. The sign outside read Maggie's Place, and soft music drifted out whenever someone opened the door. Emily stepped inside, ordering only coffee at first. She sat at a corner booth, hands wrapped around the warm cup, wondering what her future would look like. The owner, Maggie, noticed the lost look in her eyes and approached with a kind smile. "Passing through or staying a while?" she asked. Emily hesitated, then answered honestly, "I'm not sure." Maggie nodded as if she understood without needing long explanations. "Well, if you need work, I could use an extra pair of hands." And just like that, Emily found a small beginning, a job that paid enough for her to rent a tiny room above the local hardware store. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers, and that mattered more than anything else. Days at the diner were busy, but comforting. She poured coffee, took orders, wiped counters, and listened to the friendly chatter of the town. People in Willow Creek spoke softly, laughed often, and treated her with simple kindness. They didn't ask too many questions, and she appreciated that. Among the regulars was a man named Luke McAllister. Luke was a quiet cowboy with sun-touched skin, calm blue eyes, a steady way of moving that made him stand out from everyone else. He owned a ranch a few miles outside of town and came to the diner most mornings for breakfast. At first, he simply nodded at Emily when she brought his coffee. Over time, he started greeting her, sometimes with a small smile, sometimes with a gentle "Mornin', ma'am." Luke never asked personal questions, never pushed for details. But he noticed things like how she flinched when someone spoke too loudly, or how she avoided standing near the front windows at night. He didn't mention any of it, yet his respectful silence made her feel strangely seen, as if he could sense her fear without needing the story behind it. One afternoon, the diner was quiet, and Emily sat outside during her break. Luke happened to pass by on his horse, stopping at the hitching post near the porch. "You set line in all right?" he asked, dismo. Ina nodded, though her voice was small. Trying to. Luke studied her for a moment, not with judgment, but with genuine concern. If you ever need work with animals or just some quiet space, my ranch could use help during the afternoons. Pays better than most places. Emily didn't know why she trusted him, but something about his calm presence soothed her. I might think about it, she said softly. A week later, she accepted his offer. Working on the ranch became a healing rhythm. She fed horses, brushed the gentle mare named Daisy, and helped fix small things around the barn. Luke taught her slowly, never raising his voice, never rushing her. The ranch hands were friendly and treated her with respect. For the first time in years, Emily felt like she was part of a community, one that welcomed her without asking why she needed a fresh start. Over time, she opened up in small ways. She told Luke about her love for drawing, her dream of living somewhere peaceful, her fear of making the wrong choices. She never mentioned Dave by name, only referring to my past. Luke understood, without needing every detail. You deserve peace, he told her once, looking out at the sunset. Everyone does. Emily's eyes had filled with quiet gratitude. She didn't know whether she deserved anything yet, but hearing someone say it made her believe it might be true. Months passed, and Emily slowly began to feel stronger. She still jumped at unexpected noises and still checked behind her shoulder sometimes. But the shadows inside her heart grew lighter. She laughed more easily, talked more freely, and even joined the townspeople at the weekend markets. But peace can be fragile. One morning, Emily arrived at the diner and froze when she saw a familiar car parked across the street. Her heart pounded as memories rushed in. She hoped she was mistaken, hoped she was imagining it. But deep down, she knew Dave had discovered where she was. She tried to stay calm as she stepped inside, but her hands trembled. Maggie noticed immediately. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" she whispered. Emily opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, the diner door swung open with a force that made everyone look up. Dave stood there. His eyes scanned the room, the look Emily instantly recognized. She felt the old fear rise inside her, cold and sharp. She tried to shrink back, but Dave spotted her and walked forward with determined steps. "There you are," he said. His voice was too calm, and that made her stomach twist. "We're going home." Emily shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm not going with you." Dave reached for her arm, not hurting her, but gripping her firmly enough to show he expected obedience. She pulled back, stumbling slightly. At that same moment, the diner door opened again, and Luke stepped inside. He had come for his usual breakfast. Unaware of the storm he was walking into, he saw Emily's pale face first, then Dave's hand on her arm. Luke's expression changed not with anger, but with a steady seriousness that made the entire room go silent. "Everything all right here?" he asked, his tone calm, but unmistakably firm. Dave narrowed his eyes. "This is my wife. She's coming with me." Emily's breath caught, and tears stung the back of her eyes. She wanted to speak, but her voice felt trapped. Luke stepped forward, placing himself between them. His presence felt like a shield tall, steady and unshaken. His eyes didn't leave Dave's. "She doesn't look like she wants to go," Luke said, his voice low and controlled. Dave opened his mouth to argue, but Luke cut him off gently, firmly. Without raising his tone, "She ain't yours anymore." In that moment, everything changed because Emily realized she wasn't alone anymore. Not in this town. Not in her new life, and definitely not in this moment. The rest of the diner stood quietly, watching, waiting, ready to support her if she found the courage to speak, and for the first time in years, Emily felt that courage rising. The diner grew so quiet that even the soft clinking of dishes stopped. People froze in their seats, unsure how the moment would unfold. Emily stood between her past and her present, between the life she had escaped and the life that had begun to heal her. Dave's hand remained hovering near her arm, but now he hesitated. He hadn't expected someone like Luke to step in, and he certainly didn't expect the entire diner to be watching. Emily's heart beat fast, but not only from fear. Something new stirred inside her, something she had buried for years. Strength, hope, a voice waiting to be heard. Luke stayed in front of her, his stance calm and steady, like the mountains that surrounded their small town. He didn't raise his voice, didn't push, didn't show anger, but his presence alone made it clear that Emily was no longer standing alone. Dave straightened his shoulders and tried to steady his expression. "This is a misunderstanding," he said with a tight smile. "My wife and I just need to talk." Luke looked at Emily instead of answering. His eyes asked her a silent question. "Do you want to go with him?" Emily took a slow breath. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to meet Luke's gaze. That small moment locking eyes with someone who believed in her gave her the courage she needed. She turned to Dave with a quiet determination she had never shown before. "I don't want to talk in private," she said softly. "And I am not going home with you." A ripple of emotion moved through Dave's face. Surprise, frustration, confusion. But Emily didn't step back this time. She stood straighter, her voice stronger. "I left because I needed peace," she continued. "I am not going back." The words felt like warm air filling her lungs. For once, she wasn't trying to keep things calm or avoid tension. She was speaking her truth. Luke nodded once, proud but silent. Dave looked around the diner, suddenly aware of all the eyes watching him. He forced another uneasy smile. "We should handle this like adults," he said, though his tone grew noticeably tight. "She belongs with me." Emily's voice was gentle but clear. "I belong where I feel safe." The honesty in her voice seemed to surprise even herself. Maggie, the owner of the diner, stepped forward from behind the counter. Her hands rested on her apron, but her expression was firm. "Emily is part of this town," she said, "and we look after our own." Several customers nodded. Some stood up, not in a threatening way, but in a protective, supportive way that made Dave realize he was outnumbered not by strength, but by unity. Luke spoke again, his voice steady as ever. "She makes her own choices. No one here is deciding for her." Emily took a deep breath and stepped slightly from behind Luke, placing herself clearly in the center of the moment. Her voice shook, but she didn't hide. "I'm starting a new life," she said. "I don't want to leave this town." Dave stared at her, his confusion deepening. He had come expecting to bring her home easily. Instead, Emily was standing with confidence he hadn't seen in years. He looked at Luke again, trying to regain control through words alone. "Then I want to hear it clearly from her," he said. "Are you saying you don't want to be with me?" The whole room held its breath. Emily swallowed, her heart thudding, but she didn't waver. "Yes," she said simply. "I don't want to be with you anymore." The words were soft, but they were final. Luke didn't look triumphant. He didn't show victory. Instead, he looked at Emily with respect. Honoring the courage she had finally shown, Dave exhaled slowly. He looked around once more, seeing only quiet determination in every face watching him. Nothing he said would change her mind. The truth was there, plain and undeniable. "I didn't expect this," he muttered. Emily shook her head gently. "I didn't expect it either. But I need to choose what's best for me." Finally, after a long moment, Dave lowered his gaze. For the first time, the resistance in his posture softened. "If that's what you want," he said quietly then, "I'll go." There was no anger in his voice, only defeat mixed with exhaustion. Emily had been afraid of this moment for so long, but now she simply felt relief, a calm settling inside her. Like a weight she had carried for years had finally been lifted. Dave turned away, walking to the door. Before stepping outside, he paused and looked back at Emily, his expression unreadable. Then he left. The door closed softly behind him. The diner stayed silent for a few seconds more. Emily didn't breathe until she heard the distant sound of a car engine starting and fading down the road. When it was finally quiet again, Maggie placed a comforting hand on Emily's back. "You did the right thing, sweetheart," she said. Emily nodded slowly, feeling tears filling her eyes, not from fear, but from relief. She sank into a chair as everyone in the diner softly returned to their seats or offered her small smiles and nods of encouragement. Some even whispered, Good for you, or we're here for you. Luke knelt next to her chair, keeping his voice gentle. You okay? Emily took a shaky breath. I think so, she managed. I didn't think I could ever say those words out loud. You were strong today, Luke replied. Really strong. Tears slipped down her face, but they weren't painful tears. They were tears of release. Thank you for being here, she whispered. You don't have to thank me, Luke said softly. Anyone would have stepped in. But Emily knew not everyone could offer support with such calm steadiness. Luke wasn't trying to take credit. He simply cared. The rest of the day passed with people checking on her gently, making sure she had everything she needed. Emily finished her shift at the diner, though customers insisted she sit and rest. By evening, Luke offered her a ride back to town. She accepted. They rode in comfortable silence for a while, the quiet hum of the truck filling the space between them. Outside the window, the sky glowed orange and pink, painting the fields with soft colors. You're not alone here, Luke said quietly. I know, Emily whispered, and that means everything. When they reached her place, Luke hesitated before she stepped out of the truck. If you ever need anything, he said, the ranch is always open to you. Emily smiled gently. Thank you, Luke. Over the next week's life at Willow Creek slowly settled again. Emily continued working at the diner and helping at the ranch. People treated her the same as before, not like someone fragile, but like someone who had simply faced a hard moment and come out stronger. Her confidence grew. She painted in her spare time, something she hadn't done in years. She laughed more freely, her smile natural and bright again. She helped Maggie try new recipes at the diner, joined the townspeople at weekend gatherings, and even learned how to guide horses on her own. Luke remained a quiet but steady presence in her life. He didn't rush anything, didn't push her to talk about the past. They shared slow walks by the fence line, conversations about simple things, and peaceful moments watching the sunsets that spread across the open sky. One afternoon, as they stood watching Daisy graze in the field, Luke said softly, You seem lighter lately. Emily nodded, her eyes reflecting the calm sky. I feel like I'm finally becoming myself again. Luke smiled. That's good to hear. Emily looked at him for a long moment, gratitude warming her heart. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if their bond would turn into something deeper, or if it would simply remain a strong friendship. But she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't living in fear anymore. She was living with hope, and that was more than enough. Because Willow Creek had given her something she thought she had lost forever, a chance to start again. Surrounded by kindness, courage, and people who believed in her, especially one quiet cowboy who stepped forward when she needed it most and said the words that helped her. Take her life back. She ain't yours anymore. Not for Emily. That moment was the beginning of everything.